So that's a good example of why a cant hook is better for this work than a peavey. Now you didn't know that, but there's a lot of guys that argue in the milling business that they should use peaveys. But a peavey is actually designed for water work. And if you look at the difference, see that short hook? So when you come in here and you stab it with that, you've got this perfect pincher with the end of it, you see?
Yeah.
On that one, you keep overshooting it and you're having a harder time pinching it.
Ah.
It's not my fault.
Nope. No. Cant hooks, so peaveys are actually designed for working on the water.
Who knew?
So you could stab them.
Hey folks, Eric the old jarhead here. I thought I would take you along for a ride on one of my mobile milling operations, and as Davidson's all-natural Jim recently mentioned, all I do is mobile milling. This is what I do. I pack up my mill, pack up my camper, all my gear, figure out how to find a place for it and get it stowed somewhere so that it doesn't fall off going down the road. And I hook my sawmill up to my camper and I hit the road. And in this case, I was about 144 miles from home. The furthest I've milled so far is about 237 miles. That's for a customer. Although, to be honest, I often mill for myself up at our property, which is 267 miles away, and I've towed the mill up there many, many times. You know, these jobs, they're always really awesome, and I love to do it. You know, some people, they just don't move their mills, and I've got a mobile mill, and have mill will travel. That's really should be my motto, though sometimes I say my motto is Semper Gumby. And if you were never in the Marine Corps, and you don't know what Semper Fidelis means always faithful. Well, Semper Gumby, that's always flexible. And being flexible is really the key when you're a mobile sawyer. You know, if all you do is haul your mill out to the customer and mill for them, you gotta be flexible. So I'll take you along for the ride on this one here. We're milling up 1x8s, random widths. For the most part, I was doing 6, 7, and 8-inch 1x8s, and this is all for shop flooring for the customer. A lot of blue stain pine, really neat stuff. And I just can't wait to see what the customer does with this. And I'll be honest with you, if you're a customer of mine and you've done some work with some of the wood that I've milled for you, I'd love to see what you've done. And I always love to share it either on my website, manlyportablemilling.com, or in some of my videos. It's fun to see what people do with the wood that they get when I'm out there milling for them. So I'll take you along for the ride. As you'll notice, there's a whole lot of sawdust laying around out here, and that's what we do. We make sawdust, lumber's the byproduct. You know, anytime you're doing this kind of stuff, it's always really kind of a standard thing. You're doing the same thing really over and over again. You know, load the log up on the deck, get it in position, get the hooks to the right, take that cap cut, roll her up 90 degrees, do it again. And you just do that over and over again. And in this case, we had a big pile of logs. You know, that pile of logs was something serious. And we knocked them down. Now, there were some logs in there that were really just firewood logs, and the customer pulled those out for turning it into firewood. But there was a lot of good saw logs in there, and we really started cranking those out, and we got everything we needed to mill in about 12 hours. Started a little bit on Friday, did a few hours, and then put the rest of the time in on Saturday. You know, once you get all the logs milled up, then you can just take all the flitches that you pile up throughout the whole process and throw those back up on the mill and mill them down, and I might show you that too. Pretty straightforward edging on a mill. So away we go. We're going to go ahead and just knock this log down for you. Turn it into 1x's. And while I'm at it, I thought I would talk a little bit about mobile operations like mine and kind of give you an idea. You know, you buy one of these sawmills. This one's the LT40 hydraulic. It's got a 26 horsepower Kohler motor. That does pretty well, and I run 1.25 inch bands, though I'll be honest with you, I'm switching to 1.5 inch to try those out for a while, and we'll see how that works. Primarily, I run 7-degree bands, although I've got 10s and 4s, and I really like the 4s on the wide stuff, for the, you know, they seem to make a flatter cut. But I would say that the 7s and the turbo 7s, they really cut well. I would say they're probably the fastest. And I'm going to try out some 747s soon. But in the meantime, you know, we run a lot of 7s and a lot of even 10s, especially on the small stuff. The 10s work just fine on small stuff. I just don't like 10s on the big wood or on hardwoods. Mobile milling operations, you know, you got that mill and you just got to be able to pack it up, and there's some videos in here. I'll drop some links down in the description for you. I've got a couple on doing some modifications to the mill for mobile milling, you know, putting baskets on it, that kind of stuff, as well as an umbrella. And you don't see me using the umbrella yet. I tend to only use it when it's pretty hot out, and though I do mill in the rain, I don't usually use it in the rain, though I have. I know a lot of sawyers don't mill in the rain. Honestly, where I'm at, and when you're driving 100, 200, 300 miles away to mill, you kind of got to be prepared for rain. I can't drive 250 miles to a customer and then tell them I'm not going to mill in the rain. It wouldn't do me much good. It'd be a waste of a lot of money for me, and I don't think the customers would be happy. So if it's raining, I'll mill. If it gets really bad, you know, we'll take breaks and wait for the rain to die. But honestly, a little bit of a drizzle is not going to stop me. And I grew up in British Columbia in rain country on the coast, so you know, if it's raining, you got to work. We used to say in the Corps, if it ain't raining, we ain't training. Well, if it ain't raining, I ain't working. No, that ain't right. But, you know, if it's raining, we're working. If it's sunny, we're working. I do tend to shy away from milling in 100+ degree weather, though I don't find that air drying in really hot, dry temperatures works as well as in a little bit cooler temperatures. And I think that's just because the outer edges of the wood can dry really, really fast. And it's not like a kiln. It's not controlled. You know, so if it's really hot during the day and you're getting a lot of heat on the wood, and then it cools down a lot at night, and then it heats back up the next day, I find that I tend to lose a little bit more during those kind of conditions than I do in, you know, in better conditions, you know, 70, 80 degree weather or 60 degree weather and so on. So I tend not to mill much in August, you know, mid-July all the way through till September. I tend to cut back my milling. One, it's really, really hot, and I've milled in hot weather, but, you know, honestly, I just don't know that that's the best for the customer. And of course the labor, you know, you're talking a lot of hard physical labor here when you're off bearing from a sawmill, and if it's 105 degrees out like it can be out here, that's pretty hot weather to do that kind of work in. And you know, customers often don't care, they'll do it anyway. But I'm not always happy with the wood, the way it dries in that kind of weather if you're not kiln drying it. So I kind of shy away from that. And I will tell you that from a mobile milling perspective, I mill mostly in April, May, June, and early July, September, October, November, and early December. And like I said before, I can drive anywhere from 2 miles to a customer to 200+ miles to a customer. In fact, I've got a job coming up that's going to be almost in Montana. And that's okay. That'll be fun. I enjoy it. This particular job, North Spokane, about 144 miles from me. Great location, great customers, a lot of fun, had a good time. So in any case, folks, this is it. You know, we get out there, we get the logs on the deck, we mill them up, and then we move on to the next customer, kind of like a gypsy, I suppose. You got to have a good camper. You got to have ways to store all those tools that you got to bring along, and fuel and everything else. And as I do this, I always try to find new ways to pack things up, make it a little more efficient on the road. I'll drop a link to a video on what I bring when I go on milling jobs. And of course the video on doing mods to the mill, which make it a little better for these kind of milling operations. And as always, folks, if you like what you see, hit that like button for me. I really appreciate it. Don't forget to subscribe. Y'all have a great day. The old Jarhead out.